All right, I've got my tea, and I'm going to tell you about 5 books that I have read so far this year. I think I've read more than 5, but not a whole lot more than 5. I'm going to tell you about 5 books I've read so far this year, and about 5 books that I would like to read this year. I was going to say soon, but who the hell knows what I'm going to do? It's just, I know myself. And the second I name these 5 books that I want to read, I will not read them this year. We're going to try to do better, but we'll see. I actually feel like I've got a good mix of books that I've read so far this year. Um, and I think this was maybe the first book I finished this year, or one of the first. It's Black Wings Has My Angel by Elliot Chase. And this was just a really good crime novel. I really liked the style that this was written in. It was very much that hard-boiled, but it had like this, it was written really, really well, which I appreciated. It wasn't just like a cheap crime thriller purely focused on the plot and getting through it. And I believe Chase was from or grew up in Mississippi. Born in Louisiana, spent some time in New Orleans, Mississippi. Yeah, so I don't think, if I remember correctly, there wasn't a lot of the book that took place in Mississippi. A lot of it took place out west, or there was a big city in there. I don't remember now if it was like a huge city like New York. I think it may have been. But anyway, the way that this is crafted plot-wise and just on a sentence and paragraph level is just great. It strings you along, and there's twists. It's just unpredictable enough where you're like, I don't think there's any possible way that this goes well for them. But it's like, how does it go poorly for them? And how poorly does it go for them? But despite all that, it's not a super dark or negative book. There are a lot of you don't leave being just depressed with the depraved state of humanity like you do with some of these crime novels. And so I think I've talked about this a little bit in one of my videos before, but yeah, really, really liked this one. And thanks to Eli Craner for telling me to read this on multiple occasions. My second one is Discontent, and I am trying to do these more or less in the order that I read them, just because. It's Discontent by Beatriz Serrano, translated by Mara Faye Leatham. Yeah, this was fun. I mean, it starts off kind of slow. It's just like this woman who's just going to work, and she doesn't really like her job, but she's gotten herself to a point in the company where she can somehow manage to do basically nothing all day, every day. And so she just spends her time in her office, like watching YouTube videos and stuff. She's just like super into just learning and watching all sorts of random things, and just making the day pass by. And then they go to this corporate retreat, which she does not want to go to, but she can't really get out of it. And that is where the fun really begins. And it gets a little crazy. And there's this one section, it may be part 2 or part 3. It's a fairly short section, maybe 15, 20 pages. But the way that it's written in the format of an email chain had me rolling laughing. It just, if you've ever kind of experienced an email chain where people are replying all, you may know where this is going. But I would love to see this on International Booker this year. I think it's eligible, and that would just be amazing, because it's just it's a fun book in some ways. and also kind of tragic, but like mostly fun, I think I would say. So and that cover's just like, it does make sense, kind of, I think, after you read the book, but it's just kind of not goofy, a unique little cover. She's just on a chair under a chair. This cracks me up. We got Devotions by Lucy Caldwell, which is a story collection, 8 stories. Faber in the US sent me this, and I really, really liked it. It's not out until June, so pre-order it. It's a good short story collection. I did like some of them better than others, but I didn't dislike any of them at all. I think All Grown Up is like a longer story. It's about 50 pages, whereas a lot of the others are like 20 to 30 pages. And that one in particular stood out to me as just being really, really good. It kind of had the full arc of a short story, kind of hit all the right vibes, and it gave you, it was just a good length for what she was trying to do with that story. And I don't know how much I can really say about a short story collection and keep it brief because every story is different. But I really liked this story, and Faber said they were going to send me over. They're republishing, I think, 3 of her collections alongside this one, and so I think they're going to send me soon the other 3, and then I may try to do something with all 4 of the story collections that are going to be published this late spring, early summer. So pumped for that, and check this out in June. I read The Roof Beneath Their Feet by Geetanjali Shree. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, I apologize. I tried to read Tomb of Sand, I think last year or the year before, and I enjoyed what I read, but I was trying to read it too fast, I think, and the way that Shree writes is, I don't know if, I guess difficult to some degree, but it's kind of feels all over the place. I don't know if sporadic's quite the right word for it, but I mean, it's kind of bouncy, I guess, going from this to that. She writes in super, super short chapters or sections, whatever you would call them in this case. But I just thought that the characters in this one were really interesting. They kind of exist in a building together, where they're all living kind of in this, it almost seems like it's a building where the roof, the roof connects across the whole building, and they all have access to the roof. And so a lot of the times they'll be hanging out on the roof. And the relationships between the characters feel really well done, well developed. And I do want to go back and read Tomb of Sand after reading this, and give it more attention than I did on my previous attempt. And then the other book that's been translated into English of hers last year, I think it came out. I'm blanking on the title right now, but I've got that one on my shelf as well, and I'm looking forward to reading at least one of those soonish. But that doesn't count toward my 5, I don't think. I haven't actually picked them yet. I'm gonna get through this and then figure that out. But yeah, this is another one that would be awesome to have on the International Booker. I think it's gonna be eligible. This may have been published in English before. I'm trying to remember. There was one. Yeah, the English language translation copyright is 2013, but I don't know if it was published in the UK at that point. That may have just been an American publication. So we will see. But if it is eligible, I would love to see it on there. And then I read another short story collection called Lust and Other Stories by Susan Am I not? Maybe. Um, this was published in 1989, and I read the whole thing last night. I was going through, and I was like, I kind of want to read some short stories. I kind of want something Brat Packy, but I thought about the Tama Janowitz collection. I thought about picking up with the Bret Easton Ellis, The Informers, that I have read about half of. I thought about picking up some of Jane McInerney's short stories, and in the end, I had purchased this sometime in the last few months, I think, and I decided to go for this, and I was glad I did. A lot of the stories are pretty short. She'll stop eventually. I had options, and then I went with this one, and the stories are relatively short, but they feel like a good length, and they all feel very like in that 80s vibe in New York City, where people are just living, and they've got these sort of meaningless relationships. It's called lust, right? It's not called love. And I'm very interested in reading more from this author. I've never read anything else by her before, and I enjoyed this, so I may check out her debut, which was Monkeys, which I think was published in like 86, 87. And also, we need to bring back the full page back cover author photo again. I mean, how cool is that? It's definitely not why I bought the book. I have found the 5 books. And I'm hopeful. The first one, I want to read some more of Miss Welty, and this seems like a good time to commit to it. And this is a relatively short, 135 pages or so, with illustrations by Barry Moser, and that is The Robber Bridegroom by Eudora Welty. And man, I'm just excited for this. The Moser illustrations and Miss Welty's writing, I think it's gonna be really cool. It's a creepy motherfucker. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. That's all I can say. Don't know a lot about this one, but I know I want to read more of her work, and this seems like a good next step. I mentioned the Brat Pack earlier when I was talking about lust, and I think the next book like that I am going to try to read is Jill Eisenstadt's From Rockaway. I collect these vintage contemporaries, and this one's pretty cool. I just love these books, and I don't remember what exactly got it started for me. I think it was probably Bright Lights, Big City. I read that, and then I read an article, and then that led to another article and got me just absolutely just obsessed with these books. And I'm pretty pumped to dive into this soon. I've been holding on to it for a little while, but I feel like I will probably read it soon while I'm in that mood, and if not, then it will probably be a while before I get to it. So hopefully I can prioritize that soon, because I think it'll be fun. Another book that I would want to read soon, because the World Cup's coming up, and I feel like that would be a goodish time to read that. I mean, it's always good to enjoy some football, right? But to read this book before the World Cup might give me a nice deadline to set for me to read it. I read his book A Month in the Country last year and just loved it. This is going to be very different, I feel like. but it is J.L. Carr's How Steeple Cinderby Wanderers Won the FA Cup. And I just fully believe this is going to be awesome. Steeple Cinderby Wanderers, who usually feel lucky when their pitch is above water level, are England's most obscure football team. This uncategorizable, surreal, and extremely funny novel is the story of how they start the season by ravaging the Finland League and end it all by going all the way to Wembley. It's pretty sick, not gonna lie. And it's pretty short, too. They go all the way there in like 120 pages. So this will probably be like a Sunday afternoon read, something like that. I'm looking forward to that a lot. I've been saying I've been looking forward to that after all of them. And then I've got a couple. I've got a book that's not published quite yet, which I think could be an interesting contender for the International Booker Prize. And I've got a book that has been published for a long time that you will no doubt have heard of already. That latter one is Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. I've kind of been wanting to read some more Murakami lately, and I haven't done it yet. I've only read a few of his books, but I've enjoyed them. And this one is one that a lot of people really like. It is also one that some people really don't like, I believe. And what got me on this was they're re-releasing all of his books in these editions, and I love these covers so much, I'm going to buy them all. But I'm going to do so over a period of time because there are a lot of them, and I do not need to spend all of that money at once. But I want to also read them. So if I buy them every few months and read them as I buy them, then that makes the most sense to me. So we'll see if I stick to any of that. But I really do like these covers, and I'm really excited to read this book because Murakami has this really magical writing style, I guess. And some of it's, I'm sure, due to the translations he has as well. But the I don't even know how to describe it. But it's very fantastical, even when it doesn't seem like fantastical things are occurring. And I like that. So soon, hopefully, we're going to go for it. It's not too long either. The only two books I've read by him, I've read three. I read After Dark, which was fairly short. I read Killing Commendatore, which was the first one that I ever read. I just picked it up at the library because I thought it looked cool as hell. And it also said something about The Great Gatsby on the dust jacket, like it was an homage or something. And that sold me on it. And I read it, and I loved every page of it. Probably a weird entry point to Murakami's work, but that's the one I had, and it worked. And then I read his latest to be translated and published in English, City and Its Uncertain Walls, and I also really enjoyed that one. So I have hopes for this one, and they're relatively high. Lastly, I have a book that is being published in March, and that is Mieko Kawakami's Sisters in Yellow. And I think this has high International Booker potential. I haven't read it yet, but from what I'm hearing, it could be on the list. And I've never read any of her work, which is kind of nuts because she's a pretty well-known writer, I feel like, in the community of people who read books like this. So I'm going to rectify that, and I'm going to read this hopefully soon. Maybe I'll try to squeeze it in by pub date, because that would be a good deadline to set, and maybe that will help me get to it sooner rather than later. I'm excited to get to it. And the cover's just, if you don't know already, I'm a sucker for a good cover, and I really like this cover. So we shall see. All right, well, that is it for now. I don't know what I'm going to do next or when I'm going to do it, but it will be something that you can watch. So turn on the notifications if you so desire, and I will see you then.